Hello, improvers. Justin Winstead, the Improver Coach. I want to be very vulnerable with you today and share with you a moment in my life where I was really embarrassed that I look back on with really a lot of shame and regret in many ways. Thankfully, this situation has been redeemed and I was able to learn from it and grow from it, but it's definitely a failure on my part. It was a time, a season of my life that led up to an event that I wish I could rewind the clock and have known the lesson and applied the wisdom there without having to go through the challenges. So we're going to rewind the clock to when I was 21 years old, and I was serving as a youth pastor at a church. And no one gets into ministry for the money, but the church was paying me well for that position in that area. It was very fair, but my financial situation was not great. And it wasn't the fault of what I was being paid. It was the fault of me and how I was managing, or should I say mismanaging, my income. And so I found myself in the office of a missions pastor asking for money out of their benevolence fund to bail me out of a situation I was in. The situation I was in is my utilities had been disconnected in the trailer house that I was renting. Yes, you heard that right. I was renting a trailer house and I had no water, I had no electricity because I hadn't paid those bills. The reason I hadn't paid those bills is because I had taken out a payday loan. Yes, yes, that type of payday loan. Yeah, the big ripoffs, the one that everybody knows to stay clear from and stay away from because they charge you way too much interest and then you just get hooked into this trap and it's really hard to get out of. It's really a scam. And I don't care if you're in that business. The payday loan business is a scam. And you need to run from that if you're in it or if you are ever tempted by it. It's horrible. Well, I had fallen into the temptation of immediate gratification and wanting some money now. And so I did one of those and I got caught into that cycle. And so I had used my paycheck that month in part to pay off the payday loan people. So I didn't have money left for my utilities. And so I was hoping that this church would just bail me out of that situation. Well, and I'm saying this church, let me tell you how bad this was. It wasn't even the church that I was employed at. I was employed at one church and I was sitting in the office of another church asking them for money. Now, why in the world would I do something like that? Well, in my mind, this is how misguided I was. I thought they were the money church. They were the ones that had lots of extra finances and I'd heard of them helping tons of people out. So I thought, well, hey, I'm one of the good guys. I'm somebody that they should help. I was very prideful. I was very ignorant and blind about my situation and the decisions that I was making. So as I'm telling this pastor about the bad decision I made to take out the payday loan, he begins to ask more questions. And he found out that one of the reasons I took out the payday loan is because I had maxed out a credit card and I needed to pay off the credit card because they were calling and harassing me, telling me if I didn't pay off my credit card, they were running my credit into the ground. And as a young person, I wouldn't be able to buy a car, I wouldn't be able to buy a house. It was going to ruin my future. And out of fear, I went and paid off the credit card with my paycheck, but then I didn't have money to pay my other bills. So I did the payday loan and it was just insane. And then you may ask, well, why did you have a maxed out credit card at 21 years old? Well, I had a maxed out credit card because I took one out for an emergency, and my emergency ended up being that I broke up with a girl and I was emotionally upset about it. And so I went and bought a flat screen TV with surround sound, with the DVD player and DVDs. By the way, Pearl Harbor on DVD, that was a pretty good show to watch there on the surround sound, but it definitely wasn't worth the price that I paid for it. I was immature, I was irrational, and I went and made a silly purchase decision, and that decision led to another bad decision, led to another bad decision. You ever been there? One bad decision leads to the next. So as I began to share this story, semi-unwillingly, the pastor was really good at asking good open-ended questions that caused me to open up so they could discover my situation. I still thought that I was justified in many ways. I was making excuses about my situation, and I was still the victim. After all, it was her that broke up with me, and it was the place that charged too much for the equipment, and it was the credit card people that had harassed me, and it was the crazy interest on the payday loan. It was everybody else's fault but mine. So this pastor, he says something to the effect of, Justin, that's quite a predicament you've gotten yourself into, and what I'm about to do now is what the scripture says is to speak truth in love. Now, I'm going to tell you it's not going to feel very loving to you, and you may not even take it as truth, but I want you to know that's the heart that I'm giving it to you in. He said, it's Christians and ministers like you who give Christians and ministers like me a really bad name. Wow, that really hit. I didn't quite know where he was going with that, but that was a very bold statement. He said, we're supposed to be the ones in the world that are serving, that are giving, that are lifting up others. We're supposed to be the ones that take what we have and share it with the world. And you're doing the opposite of that. You're wanting to come in here and take from those who are truly in need because you've been irresponsible and because you've been immature. And our benevolence fund is here for people who are victims of their circumstances, not the main creators of them. And we love you too much to enable you and bail you out of the situation. So we're not going to give you the money that you're asking for. We love you. We're going to be praying for you. And we do want to give you something, but it's not cash. And he reached off the shelf behind him and pulled off a book. And he gave me The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. I've got a couple of friends that were big Dave Ramsey fans, so I knew a little bit about him, but didn't really understand what was in the book or the whole premise of it. And I couldn't believe I was getting a book instead of money. And I was really kind of mad and upset. I knew this church had the cash, and why wouldn't they just share it with me? But I went out and sat in my little Chevrolet S10 pickup truck in that church parking lot, and it hit me. It was me. It was my fault. I had to take ownership of the mess that I created. And I began to cry. Actually, it was a very emotional sob. And I made a vow in that pickup truck that I would never be in that spot again. I would never create such a financial mess in my life that I would be going and trying to ask for a church or a charity or a ministry to bail me out because of my stupidity. I wanted to be the type of person that did give and that did love others enough to be able to share with them and create margins so that I could be a blessing to others. I made the decision that never again would I be in that situation. So I ended up reading the book and in pretty short order and starting to implement some of the principles. Now, to be fair, I don't do everything that Dave Ramsey says do or follow his plan perfectly. Don't actually agree with the 100% of everything he puts out. But the principles there were very sound, and many of them were biblically based, and it really helped me to turn my financial situation around. And you know what it also helped me to do is develop some self-discipline and some awareness and just to begin to mature and take ownership and responsibility. So my encouragement to you today is, one, don't go out and take out credit cards and payday loans and make stupid purchases that you don't need because emotionally you feel like you really want that thing and you really got to have it. Like, that's just dumb. You don't want to do that. But the second thing I really want to talk to you about is the idea of speaking truth in love, which is what that pastor did for me. And then, to my credit, being able to receive that accountability and that encouragement from him and to apply that. If you really want to know what it takes to go to the next level in your life and in your business, you're going to have to look in the mirror and you're going to have to own the situation. You, in many ways, are the problem. That's the bad news. But you, in many ways, are the solution. And that's the good news. And you can take solace in the fact that most of the results in your life right now are the results of decisions that you are making. And you can make different decisions and get different results. You can also make the decision to go out and seek out people who will give you wise counsel, who will encourage you, who will hold you accountable, and who will give you feedback that you might not want to hear, but that you need to hear. A good coach, a good community can do that. But also, maybe you're someone that's doing really well and you are in a position where you can help others. One, share, be generous financially, but also do what that pastor did with me. And be willing to speak truth in love. He was very caring, and it was hard for me to hear, but it was such a blessing to me. And I'm very thankful today that I was called out all those years ago. And so some of you need to start pouring out to others, investing in others, not just financially, but giving them truth and giving them wisdom and just loving on them. And so as your coach today, that's the encouragement that I have for you. And if there's anything that I can do to help you, reach out to me, but learn from my silly mistakes so you don't have to make those same mistakes as well. You take care, stay good, and keep getting better.